when we attend party meetings, when we attend rallies, and someone shout FNM, I want you to get in the habit of saying victory. Even at your lowest moment, when you have questions about what will happen, the things that you don't see yet in the natural, I want you to shout FNMs, FNMs. It is an honor to be here with you this evening, to be in the West, Central, Grand Bahama, West End, and Bimini. It is an honor to be here with you. We intend to come back. We will be in the East with my Member of Parliament, the Honorable Kwesi Thompson, with Pine Ridge, with Marco City. But tonight, we are in West Grand Bahama, and I wish to acknowledge the entire party leadership, the torchbearers. The president is here tonight, and of course, all of the members of the torchbearers, to our meritorious council members, the persons on whose shoulders we stand. I want you to recognize our meritorious council members this evening. Just yesterday, many of us were in New Providence, and there was a memorial service for Ronnie Ambrista. It was an incredible turnout of not only Free National Movement supporters, others came to pay tribute. We had a number of outstanding artists who performed, and it didn't matter what their politics was. They paid tribute to an amazing Bahamian hero, a trade unionist, a political leader, an extraordinary talent in the world of music. And we will miss him, just as we will miss Vicky Stubbs and Bernadine Penniman, and so many who we have lost just recently. We've been going through a difficult time as a country, as a party, and in every constituency each week we have been burying not just persons who we know to be a part of our constituency, but people we know and love. We lost Plummy recently in Marco City. So many persons. Just this past week, we buried actually the oldest FNM in West End and Bimini. And so, again, as we grieve, we want to pay tribute to the work they did on our behalf, on behalf of our children. And that is part of why we must continue this fight, to return this country to hands that intend to transform the Bahamas for all Bahamians. The Progressive Liberal Party, they sold the Bahamian people a bill of dreams. They gave the impression that if they were given a chance to govern again, that they would take care of Bahamians. But instead, they have come to power, and they're not even taking care of all PLPs. They're taking care of a select few. If you think we have problems, check their chat groups. PLPs are realizing that this administration has a select group of people who they intend to empower. And they're assuming in some cases that some of their generals will allow the resources to trickle down to Bahamians, PLP Bahamians. But they're discovering every day when they get in cuss that the few that they are empowering don't care a whole lot for the many. The truth of the matter is, when all of us come to public service, we come to public service because we have a vision on where our country should go. We want to build an economy that prospers all Bahamians. We want all boats to rise as the tide rise. And we want a country based on merit. In other words, it's good when you have good relationships that could get you in and even some cases help you move up. But a better vision for the country is that we create a country governed by laws, and people who are minded to work hard and smart can succeed. Knowing some folks is good, But knowing some things is even better so that you are able to get in and to rise up. We want to build a meritocracy, a country where talents and gifts matter. The PLP is not about that business. They're about patronage. They're about giving out trinkets to titillate people to get an opportunity to get in a chair and then squander the opportunity to change lives irreversibly for the better. How I know they're about patronage? Well, the truth of the matter is, look at some of the constituencies their leadership have represented. The constituencies have fundamentally not changed under their leadership. I said to you in 2017, and I repeated it in 2021, if you elect a man who in his constituency could not bring fundamental, broad changes, how in the world do you expect him to usher in changes on a national level? Oh, I don't knock patronage. I don't knock when somebody helps somebody because they have an individual challenge or problem. If they freeing up a slow 10, a faded or wrinkled 20, I don't have a problem with that. Even if it's a 50 or 100 or a couple thousand, I don't have a problem with that. Hungry mouth gotta feed. But the reality is, if you create the right environment, if you put rules in place that are good for all Bahamians, if you provide the seed capital to the business community who's making it rain in this country, if you remove the red tape and you improve the ease of doing business, oh, Bahamians will shine. Resources will flow. Economic development and growth will come. But again, the PLP ain't about that business. They've hired a tremendous amount of public relations specialists. In fact, they have hired most of the journalists in the country. Not to tell the right story, but to tell their version of the story. But the problem is the shine is wearing off. The honeymoon is over. And so tonight, I just want to deposit a couple of quick things in your spirit as we deal with this administration. I want to recognize the Honorable Lindy Russell and to let him know how much we appreciate the sacrifice that he has made over these many years. We in the West. Lindy, we love you and we appreciate your sacrifice. We remember the Honorable Nico Grant. Nico Grant served 5 consecutive times for the Free National Movement. He has done far more for us than we have done as a party for him. And we must honor all of those that have served and serve with distinction on our behalf. And so we remember Nico and we remember his family. Let me just tell you a quick story about Nico. Nico Grant lost both of his children. I remember when he lost one of his parents. And 2 of the deaths occurred in a relatively short period of time. And I, like many others, and I'm sure the Honorable Kwesi Thompson, Iram Lewis, all of us who observed him during that period, we could not understand how he returned to work so quickly. And he didn't come with his personal grievances. He dealt with the grievances of our people. It was a testimony to someone who looked beyond self, and he went back to the original reason why he was motivated to serve, and that is to empower the people. That lesson never left me. Because many of us in here tonight, we have some personal grievances. We have some issues, some things that weren't done for us. Some not so good things that were done to us or said about us. The question is, as we look to empower our families, but beyond that, empower the communities that we represent, to what extent can we separate? To what extent can we rise above the personal grievances? To think about the family in Holmes Rock who used to do well, but not because of any fault of their own. The breadwinner of the family got sick. And the remaining member of the family who was working, they fell on hard times. Or they ran into a PLP government that released them from a job where they were earning as many of the women in urban renewal was earning. Just a few $100s. And they taking their own sweet time to settle the outstanding payments that are due. We come to serve because we're thinking about those women. One who's here tonight was a sick spouse. Had a job that she signed in the morning and stayed. She didn't sign in and go do F&M politics. She signed in and stayed and served senior citizens and was a surrogate parent to children, but was released unceremoniously. So when I hear slick talkers in the House of Assembly giving the impression how much they love Bahamians and how much they are protecting this country patrimony for Bahamians, I ask, what about the women in urban renewal who were professionals? I, like other members of parliament who are here tonight, most of us did not spend a lot of time in urban renewal offices. We allowed them to do their work. I'm in Marco City. I don't believe I've been in that office more than 4 times. And each time we went, often it was on the basis of invitation and we made contributions. We didn't ask them to go and assemble the list to keep us completely informed of who we got to go pursue for a vote. We didn't ask them to try and cherry pick who would get a voucher, as what happened after Matthew, where people cherry pick who lived and who died, who benefited, and who was hungry. We are here tonight because we have to grow our associations. That's why our chairman sacrificed. He's here. That's why our secretary general and many members of our team have come, because we recognize that so great are the challenges of Bahamians in general, FNMs in particular, under a heartless PLP government, that it is important that we do the work that is required to grow our associations and to welcome FNMs back home. Let me tell you, we have a bigger base than the PLP. They know for a fact that when they come to Grand Bahama, they come into FNM country, Mrs. Thompson. They know where they're coming. And so if we welcome our base back home with no judgment, we're not telling them things like, your eyes deceived you and the way you felt based on our governance, you're wrong. No, we're not putting words in their mouth or insulting their intelligence. Some people made a decision on the basis of their experience. Let us welcome them back home. We are stronger with them. We are weaker without them.
Get ready! Get ready! Get ready!
When our base comes out, the Progressive Liberal Party is in opposition. Our base is bigger than their base. The Bahamian people trust the Free National Movement more than they trust the Progressive Liberal Party. Our present Prime Minister came in on a 34% approval rating. That's the lowest in the history, not one of, the lowest in the history of the country. That's why he is irreversibly attached to public relations. He can't help it. This is why he is fascinated and he's fallen in love with the call of his name on the international stage. He's unaccustomed to that kind of attention. I don't fault him for that. He's a smart Cat Island man. But even smart, talented Bahamians need attention and love too. He is enamored with his name being called in international circles. And I'm not angry with him, because when he gives a good speech overseas, I cheer for the Bahamas. I don't wish him to fail on an international platform that can be beneficial to us. However, how many licks do you need of the Tootsie Roll to get to the center? How many trips must you take? How many? Deputy Leader who is not here tonight. We benefited from some talented leadership. We were tutored from up close and from afar by the likes of a David Thompson, who did incredible things on behalf of this party. And so we don't engage in simplistic, nonsensical arguments. We know the government officials have to travel, but one good sign that a prime minister should not be at a meeting is when he shows up and the bulk of everybody else who's there are ministers, not head of states. And then one good indication for the minister that maybe he or she should not be at the meeting is when they show up, it's only ambassadors. You could have sent your ambassador and you got plenty. One good indication that the ambassador don't need to go, because when they go to the meeting, it's the first and second consul from other countries that have shown up. So all we're saying is travel when it fits the purpose, then explain to us how you have invested, how much of our scarce resources you have invested, and what is the return on investment for the country. That's your obligation. The PLP is so arrogant in governance that they really don't believe they need to explain to us how they spend your money. It's a spirit of entitlement. That's what's different about the Free National Movement and the PLP. I do not demonize PLPs, because whenever they are pissed off with their administration, a percentage of them just vote for us. You know, when we piss off with our administration, we stay home. And right now, a number of them are coming to the Free National Movement. You see, they recognize that not only is the PLP cherry picking who lives and dies in this country, but even in their own party, they have a select group that's eating. Think about it. Bahamians are unable to show up at social services in Grand Bahama and Abaco, even in New Providence, and get the most basic help. And yet, the Member of Parliament for West End and Bimini and his Minister of State get up in the House of Assembly and attempts to wax eloquently about the work that they are doing. And one good indication that they're not telling us the whole story is when you get 200 trade unionists outside questioning the decisions that you're making. The reality is, in Grand Bahama, many Bahamians are unable to get the help because this government is not sending the resources to help the most vulnerable. Yet they want to convince Grand Bahamians and Abaconians that they care about the small man and woman. Lie them a tell. The best indication that you care about somebody is to serve them and to help meet their needs. When they borrow scripture, they don't even credit God. They like to talk about, they quote one of their former leaders and says, as he always said, you know, we dry every tear from every eye. Well, that's in Revelations. You mean you have a God complex too on top of being arrogant? But in Grand Bahama, there are residents whose homes have been damaged that are still crying, who do not expect that government will solve all of their problems, but that government will keep their word. And at a minimum, make a contribution to restoring them to a life of normalcy, if only partly. Think about it. Some of us took challenges. We had challenges with some of the things we executed during the recovery after Dorian. But the worst of the 2 years after Dorian under the FNM is better than any time under the Progressive Liberal Party. The amount of homes repaired, the assistance given under the Free National Movement far exceeds anything that has been done here. And I give credit at least to the minister for acknowledging that Ministry of Finance ain't send the money. No, he's plain about it. He concedes when the member for East Grand Bahama or the member for Central raise the issue, they simply haven't gotten the money. But this is a government that says they are prioritizing Grand Bahama. They are going to put the Grand back in Grand Bahama. It sounds good, but it is of no effect. This is a group committed to overselling and under-delivering. I warn the Deputy Prime Minister, don't come to Grand Bahama as if you are the savior. Don't come to Grand Bahama pretending that you have all of the answers, because pride goes before destruction. And the hotel is a perfect example of a phantom 100 million that they were sure was in the bank. And it wasn't. And even now they are scrapping. You were told about the airport. Here's another interesting fun fact for them concerning the airport. The Prime Minister he wasn't sure if it was 200 million or 400 million they were going to spend. But here's what we know. They claim it was going to be a public-private partnership. That they were going to fund these airports in large measure by attracting investors who would be partners with the government, who would bring capital to the table in order to transform these airports and work out a formula on how they would regain their money. And then the Prime Minister announced that they have $1 billion that they are drawing down on. And as people clapped, they really thought somebody else was bringing the $1 billion to the table, only to discover that he's talking about a $1 billion loan. He's borrowing the money. Now, think about this for a moment. This is the same government that's been bragging that they are ahead in the collection of revenue. But yet they can't get enough money to social services to help vulnerable Grand Bahamians and Abaconians. Yet they can't seem to process rental assistance in 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 6. For some people, it's over a year. So at the end of the day, this government is busy borrowing money to do the things that they sought to convince you that they would be able to attract credible investors to invest in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. But it's worse. It's worse. They are committed to prosecuting FNMs. We are not going to make any excuse for anyone if during the course of their service they did something that was inappropriate. We don't roll that way. There are consequences in life. But we know for a fact as we look at the Davis administration that what they are doing in many instances is not about cleaning up the system. It's about cherry picking who in the opposition they can silence by threats of prosecution or go after to settle old scores, or to paint us with a brush that has long since painted them as folks who are serial lawbreakers. How do I know this? I know this because if you are interested in cleaning up the system, you would make sure that when a minister has a problem driving straight and run into a police officer, that the police in the most transparent way would investigate the matter as they would had it been Joe Public or an FNM. How do I know that they are not about cleaning the system but cherry picking who lives or who dies? Because if an FNM is accused of abuse or violation, my God, at some point you must be able to find the number. Somebody have it in the cell phone so you could call the person and if only invite them to come in so you could have a conversation with them. There's a different rule for the Progressive Liberal Party and there's a different rule for other people. How do I know they're not serious about cleaning up the system? Because they went to Central Bank and they borrowed a ton of money, $174 million. We call it $232 million worth of special drawing rights. It's called. All you need to know, they borrowed money from the Central Bank without having legal basis for doing so. If you combine everything that they have accused other folks or combine the dollar value, combine it, it isn't 16% or 10 or 5% of the money they are taking. It ain't, and again, no amount is justified, but I just want to put it in context for you. $232 million worth of special drawing rights, it translates into about $174 million, they borrowed. And since they borrowed it illegally, it ain't me, I just using a definition called misappropriation, which in Bahamian parlance means thieving. They took the money from central bank and they had no right to do so. Could you imagine if any of y'all in here, if Jasmine Darius or Brother Pipe or anybody took $174 million? Could you imagine? But again, I must give them credit for at least being equal opportunity misappropriators, because they went to BPL. They did the same thing. They illegally made available to BPL well over $100 million. And they don't confess to these things until you discover it, when you read it in the report. And even then, they attempt to deny it. They are serial lawbreakers. It is not about cleaning up the system. It's about them being brazen enough to have their way at your expense. But meanwhile, they'll come and kick down your door. Or like one of the chairmans in here tonight, they'll send police to question you about something in a chat group about a private situation that they are in. Think about that for a moment. We get real crimes are being committed in the Bahamas. Record number of homicides. Record number of homicides. Assaults are still increasing. But they will take serious man, police officers, who really want to do their job, who we love and respect, but they would send them to go and question an FNM chairman in Grand Bahama on who circulated a picture that's already been in the newspaper about a minister and another minister cutting the cake or something.
Get ready! Get ready!
Governing is serious business. Police officers cannot and should not be used for personal inquiries. This is a serious crew. We want the airport built. Word of special drawing rights, it translates into about $174 million. They borrowed. And since they borrowed it illegally, it ain't me, I just using a definition called misappropriation, which in Bahamian parlance means thieving. They took the money from central bank and they had no right to do so. Could you imagine if any of y'all in here, if Jasmine Darius or Brother Pipe or anybody took $174 million? Could you imagine? But again, I must give them credit for at least being equal opportunity misappropriators, because they went to BPL. They did the same thing. They illegally made available to BPL well over $100 million. And they don't confess to these things until you discover it, when you read it in the report. And even then, they attempt to deny it. They are serial lawbreakers. It is not about cleaning up the system. It's about them being brazen enough to have their way at your expense. But meanwhile, they'll come and kick down your door. Or like one of the chairmans in here tonight, they'll send police to question you about something in a chat group about a private situation that they are in. Think about that for a moment. We get real crimes are being committed in the Bahamas. Record number of homicides. Record number of homicides. Assaults are still increasing. But they will take serious man, police officers, who really want to do
their job, who we love and respect, but they would send them to go and question an FNM chairman in Grand Bahama on who circulated a picture that's already been in the newspaper about a minister and another minister cutting the cake or something.
Get ready. Get ready.
Governing is serious business. Police officers cannot and should not be used for personal inquiries. This is a serious crew. We want the airport built. The names of contractors we've heard are credible individuals. But the process is important. This administration, at the end of the day, they are out of their depth. The Prime Minister has given up control of the Ministry of Finance. The Ministry of Finance is being run by a technical officer. The Minister with responsibility for economic development, he's not running it. Chester Cooper, the shadow for finance when they were in opposition, he's not running it. The Prime Minister has to focus on doing his job. So we don't disrespect him. We just say to him, you signed up for this job. Your place of work, by and large, is in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. We expect you to show up and do your job. Your job includes coming up with a plan to tackle crime. The Prime Minister has put it off on the police force, and they have a crime plan. So he takes no responsibility for the government coordinating different stakeholders in our country to stop or at least slow the bloodshed in our homes, on our streets, and now in our schools. We don't hold him responsible for the commission of the crime. We hold him responsible for not coordinating the stakeholders who can make a difference. Some young men and women, they run in shipments or guarding shipments or thieving shipments. Some of them could benefit from a grant to do legitimate business. But we can't find the grant money that they told us they had put in the budget. When we were in the chair, you could go to the OPM and you could apply, be workshopped, and access grant money. These folks, they have a select group of people who they send the information to. We would never conceive not to share with every member of parliament resources that are available so that they can help their people. But this administration, again, they determine who eat and who don't eat, who live and who die. Under my leadership, come 2026, our team, we're going to do this differently. We are going to do this differently. And even they know we are going to do it differently. Let me tell you how I know they know we can do it differently. Because they stop us in the hallways. Because they pull a crazy Thompson on the side and say, man, you need to raise this issue. They talk to myself and other colleagues. You see, some matters they're dealing with is so dangerous, even them ain't want to touch it. They want us to touch it. When government ministers can enter into contractual arrangements with people who are making money in both the formal and the informal sector, you know, minister won't touch that. Say, send that to Pintard them. They fearless, they can run with that. The bottom line is, you have contractors throughout this country, in Abaco and in Grand Bahama, looking to eat. Explain to me why the government would select particular individuals to run their money through. Our money through. As opposed to empowering the Bevins of this world, people who are trained in construction, who have applied appropriately, gotten the requisite licenses. In the Ministry of Housing, they illegally borrowed $20 million. They have no authority to do so. And then they spend the money with some folks who don't need a dime. In fact, they can fund the government. FNMs, if we bring out our base, these Egyptians you see before you, and that's why we have to love on each other. And that's why we have to have the red splash so we can mix and mingle with family. That's why we have to honor our freedom fighters and our advisory council members. That's why we have to grieve with our families who are losing loved ones and let them know we appreciate their sacrifice and the sacrifice of those that are transitioning. That's why we have to knock on doors. That's why we have to be fearless in raising the issues. That's why we have to put pressure on the Member of Parliament for West End and Bimini. And let him know that he works for all Bahamians. That's why we have to put pressure on the Member of Parliament, the outgoing Member of Parliament for Pine Ridge. I believe the Member of Parliament for East Grand Bahama put it correctly. One and done. That's why many people are applying to run in Pine Ridge. They know that one over. And so we have to knock on the doors. Before I take my seat, let me leave you with this. The Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas has squandered an opportunity to work with an opposition that has been reasonable and civil in discussing the issues that affect this country. He squandered an opportunity. This administration is as tribalistic as any version of the PLP in the past. Even though the Prime Minister is an affable gentleman, he smiled, he helped some individuals on an individual basis, but he's unable to enforce discipline in his party. That's why the Minister of Education can make a statement completely against a cabinet decision and there are no consequences. That's why just yesterday in the House, the member for Centerville could literally chastise the Minister of Tourism on the state of Bay Street and whether or not the new port is going to benefit Bahamians. Lack of discipline, that's why. The minister who's responsible for BPL, that's causing your relatives' bill in the rest of the Bahamas to go up because he is responsible single-handedly. Him and the Prime Minister as twins are responsible for 163% in fuel charge. And the Prime Minister has not reprimanded him for at least two things. One, lying at least 8 times in less than 12 minutes. I was never briefed. Nobody gave me any information on how we could have kept the hedge program and saved Bahamians hundreds of millions of dollars. And once we laid the document on the table, he started to stutter. The Prime Minister did not insist on him resigning, having misled the House of Assembly 8 times in less than 12 minutes. And worse, when he figured that the pressure was too tall for him alone, he said, it wasn't me, it was the Minister of Finance who did it. And then the Prime Minister pulled a shaggy on the country. He said, it wasn't me. Ministry of Finance is big, it was somebody else somewhere in there. There's a different rule for them and a different rule for everybody else. So I need you to join us as we fire the Progressive Liberal Party. We need to fire them. We need to say to the Prime Minister, we are thankful for the time that you've served, but come 2026 or before. We would like for it to be sooner, but I want you to know he enjoying this job. So don't bet no money on sooner. But we need to fire him. We need to fire several other ministers with him. A few of them are retired, but we need to fire a couple of the ministers who've made a decision that Crown land It's not for those who've applied for 25 years ago or 30 years ago and haven't gotten it. But maybe the Crown Land is for folks closer to home. You're going to hear in the next couple of weeks as we share some information on some unfortunate decisions that they are making while they are coming after your colleagues. They have colleagues who are making decisions as if their belly have no bottom. Right here in Grand Bahama. Why is it in the West only a select group of fellas getting the housing contracts? So I want you to be fed up, but I want you to commit to working every day. Use that anger, that disappointment. But more importantly, use the love you have for Central Grand Bahama, the love you have for West End and Bimini, that motivates us to get on the road, to knock on doors, to welcome F&Ms back home, to tell them how much we love them and care about them, and to say to PLB, you will have a better shot with the Free National Movement than you will with this crew.